Today, let's talk about how we go and make our budgets, like a budget list, or how do we do it on Excel or Google Sheets. Today, let's talk about that. What are we going to do to make a budget? What is a budget really? Well, a budget is basically a plan. How are we going to execute our plan? And if we don't have a plan, how do we know where we're going to go? Okay, that's what a budget really is. A budget list is a list of items that we need to go through and line item out that we need to put money to. That's right. We get our paychecks up here and then we start listing all those things out. If it's in Excel, all your rows is going to be where you're going to list everything out. And I want to caution you here. As you jump into this budgeting, I want to let you know that it takes about 3 to 5 times to really get a budget narrowed down. So don't get upset because you don't get it perfect the first time. You're probably not going to get it perfect the first time. I know it usually takes me 2 or 3 times to do something before I get it right. So don't feel bad, but stick with the process. Now, also, if you're a couple, you need to have a budget meeting. That means the nerds, who are the ones that are really driving this budget, like me, we need to sit down with a free spirit who is somebody who basically does not want to be a part of this meeting. They want to go do something more fun. Well, you need to have them in there because you need their insight and make sure that they're on board for the plan. Because if you don't, they're going to blow up the plan every chance they get. Especially like if you're going to the grocery store for a budget and you got to go and only spend $100. They're going to walk in there and swipe the credit card for $150 and you're just going to be freaking out. So we need to make sure that we're sitting down together, planning together, and coming out with the budget we need to do. And again, if you're going to make that list, you're just going to line item everything out. In Excel, it's on rows, or Google Sheets. Everything's on rows, all the items you need to do. And that can be household expenses like electricity, insurance, mortgages, your car, you got to do fuel, you got all of these things, groceries, clothing, pet stuff. You got all of these items. We need to make sure that we're listing everything out. And if we don't, well, we're not going to be successful. And 99% of the wealthy billionaires and millionaires out there all use a budget. Businesses that have these huge skyscrapers, they use budgets. So let's learn from the successful people and use budgets. So we need to make sure that we're line iteming and making everything out there in a budget. And I will show you how you can actually get a budget from me at the end of this video. Now, the other thing we need to understand is we don't want to use credit cards. That's right, I know, and then the phones too. We don't want to use that phone payment because they actually register less pain to the brain. That's right. You know that place that has the golden arches? Yeah, they actually did a study a long time ago. And they did not want to use credit cards when they first started. But when they started understanding how people would buy, they actually started instituting the credit cards because instead of buying the small fry, the small Coke, and a hamburger, people were going, hey, I'm just going to up it to a large fry, large Coke, and an apple pie while I'm at it. And that was because the brain actually registers less pain when you do one of these than when you're actually handing over cash. That's right. So we need to understand that when we're going in. And that's why my wife and I use cash for a lot of our items. Now, I'm going to caution you right here. We actually use a debit card account. We actually have a separate account at our bank that we do for fuel and oil changes. Because my wife made a great point. When it's frigid up here in the Midwest, she's not walking into the gas station to tell them how much gas they're going to be buying. Especially with the gas prices fluctuating in the past year and skyrocketing for that matter, we want to make sure that it's easier for us to just swipe that card and get moving on, and we're not having to guesstimate how much money we need to put into the tank. And it's been easy for us, and we keep a little bit of a surplus in there, so that way we're not hit when the price of gas kind of goes up and down, up and down. We actually are accruing for it, so we have a little bit of a buffer. It's kind of like a little emergency fund. That brings me up to the next one. We need to actually put money into an emergency fund so that way our budgets are successful. An emergency fund basically is for emergencies, not emergency pizza, but an emergency like, oh, look, a tree just fell through my roof, which hasn't happened yet here, but I did have rain decided to come through my roof in my office and not in anybody else's rooms, ironically enough, which I had to have money for the roof, which I accrued for, so we had the money set aside so we could put on a roof. Didn't have that big of an issue. But most people have emergencies. The car engine explodes because there's a lack of oil, because we haven't changed the oil in 6 months, or some other instance, we had to go to the emergency room. Gotta have emergency budgets so you're not swiping that credit card, because the credit card companies who are very wealthy understand that people don't pay off their credit cards on time and they make all their money on the interest, just like financing a car. Selling a car doesn't net them the amount of money that financing does. Financing is how all dealerships are really making their money. So the less we're exposed to that, the more freedom we can have. I mean, it's like being wrapped up in a whole bunch of chains. So we need to be able to budget getting out of debt, have an emergency fund, and line iteming everything out to do so. So if you have any questions about that, be glad to help you. I've actually created that spreadsheet, and if you email me at kevin@kevinsidebottom.com, I'll be glad to send you a free copy of it. It'll be a link, and I'm here to help you. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We'll see you next time.